Many years ago, I had started working on a project based on a story I developed when I was a child. Taking some of the art and writing lessons I developed over the years, I thought it would be time to try and revisit that old story. However, I was very obviously unprepared for how much work and development it took to create exactly what I wanted. A webcomic all my own. The pages were indeed sloppy, and though I had redesigned all of my characters, the world still needed building. However, I had been married to this story for so long that there became certain things that I just wasn't willing to change. Characters, concepts, and overall storylines that still meant something to me, despite how badly they intersected. Eventually, I put that story on the back burner for a long time. So long, in fact, that I started developing new stories in order to fill the gap it left. At first, it was just Tales Told, the story of a bunch of characters based on fairy tales living in a divided world. Then there was Ask the Dead Man, an Ask series centered on a zombie who is slowly losing his battle with fate, and the problems that brings his family. And my latest one, The Altars, a story of two men trying to play matchmaker for a bunch of alternate versions of themselves in order to save the universe, while also trying to revive their own dead relationship. And so, after so many years of wanting to go back to my original story, but not knowing how, I realized something. If I was to return to the world I loved and continue developing the story I once knew, it needed to change. Stories needed to be streamlined, the magic system needed to be fixed, species lines needed to be heavily separated. And most importantly, it needed to be fun again. In an effort to fall back in love with the story I refused to abandon, I am now rebuilding the story of Stardust in this series known as The World of Elavida Revisited. For the first video, I wanted to do the one thing that I thought could give me a base to work on for all of my later world building. And truthfully, it's already given me some ideas. I wanted to redo and redesign the map of Elavida. My original map was, let's say, less than stellar. But that was several years ago, so let's move on from all that. One thing that was a bit different about my map versus a lot of fantasy maps that I found or that I enjoy is that my map was supposed to encapsulate a whole planet. Breath of the Wild's map, as beautiful as it is only Hyrule. Same with all of the Pokemon maps that only showcase their specific region. Going off of fantasy maps that I liked and understood did leave me with a bit of a roadblock with my map not really looking like a world map. But let's just say Elavida is a small planet, okay? I did end up looking up a lot of different fantasy map tutorials and advice from several corners of the internet. And, if I was popular enough, this is where I would insert an ad about Skillshare. But I don't get sponsors, so we're moving on. As you can see, on my first page, I had a lot of notes that I wanted to highlight from the videos I watched and blogs I read. On the first page, you can see my list of landscape notes. Rivers don't split, and water flows from the highest point to the lowest point. Lakes only have one river, no coast-to-coast rivers. I mean, you can, but that would just make two separate continents. No lonely mountains, please have mountain ranges. Consider the importance of plate tectonics and how they affect the environment. Settlements that make sense for what they do and where they're located. We'll get to that in a bit. Consider different climates around the world and how it affects their people. And above all else, break the rules. Break them. All of them. It's a fantasy world. And fantasy worlds don't always have to be dictated by the realm of reality. Truthfully, some of these notes I skipped over a tad, but others I definitely took to heart, especially the note about considering the different climates. My second through fourth notes were labeling and jotting down all of the different civilizations and their importance. By giving the kingdoms and pyramids a specific duty or career as their main driving forces, it actually made it a lot easier to mark down who goes where. We'll get into more of that in a bit. My fifth notes were all about the other lands. Lands not dominated by the kingdoms, pyramids, or villages. As well as a few development notes about the different climates, and a little thing I often refer to as the Hell Train. We'll get to why in a moment. The last batch of notes were simply a more streamlined look as to where everybody belonged. Which civilizations are close to each other, which are far away, and which ones need to be near certain landmarks. Admittedly, I wrote these notes down back in August, and I only finished the map in November. I think the notes did give me a good base of where I wanted to go, but it also made me nervous that I would somehow mess it up. It took me a while to sit down and get through it all, but I'm definitely happy with the outcome. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get this time lapse started, and you all can see the beginnings of the rebuilding of the story of Stardust. First thing I did was just lay down the base for where I wanted the lands to go, mainly the two main continents and the smaller side lands. That little valley between those two unfinished land bridges is sort of based on the painting of God reaching out to Adam. The goddess of fellowship, Shivka, is partially based on Christianity, so I thought it would be interesting to add some allusions to Christianity. Though I don't add it into the map, this place is known as the Severed Land. I wanted to make sure my landscapes were where I wanted them to be before I wrote down any of my civilizations. Quell, Chenik, and Mirker were easy calls because Quell has its own land, and Chenik and Mirker share the continent with each other. I originally had Tarkol with them, but I decided to move it after I figured out what I wanted to change about the continents. The Land of the Roaring Winds was also a space all on its own that is completely surrounded by a torrential storm that almost no one can break through. As I've said, Chenik, the Kingdom of Science, and Mirker, the Kingdom of War, are the only civilizations that are specifically created for the demons. Chenik is placed on the top of the lone mountain range of the continent, and Mirkr lies within the Abyss, otherwise known as the massive ice crevasse created in the land. Sharwalk and Farvar, the kingdoms of agriculture and ranching respectively, are part of the mainland, directly next to the flooded lands, as to make use of the plains and the largest lake in the area. Siamars is the king of the seafaring people, so it has to be a port city. Not only that, but the kingdom has had a long-running friendship with Kupanik, the kingdom of the aviators, so they're nearby as well. The third civilization in that area is the pyramid Yapit, the pyramid that specializes in vehicles, airships, regular ships, and land vehicles. They specialize in both singular-driven vehicles and large group vehicles. Think of a car compared to a bus, or a kayak next to a cruise ship. Zlatan is the kingdom of luxury, so that means they need to be near somewhere that they can mine luxurious jewels. I was considering both a mountain range and deep-sea diving, so I put them near a mountain range with some hidden underground pools. Fraj is often known as the original village, i.e. the village that some people believe all of the species originated from. Because of this, it lies within the center of the world. Wolv is known as the Lost Village, located on the flooded lands. It's known to be nothing more than a ghost town. Quell is the military pyramid that is kept isolated from the other lands so that their soldiers can work without any distractions. I didn't have a definite place to put Tarkol, the Kingdom of Technology. I ended up putting them closer to the undisturbed Hollow Mountain range and its lake so that they have more areas to test their equipment. Lusion, home of the Lusionites and the Kingdom of Fashion, is located next to Zlatan, as they're both places of luxury products. Lusion takes up most of the land of the southern continent due to being the birthplace of the Lusionites. Tramanad is the news pyramid, and they have to send news all across the land in both paper and electronic devices. Meanwhile, it's meant to be halfway across the land from Ukalade, the amusement park pyramid. The reason is that the leader of Ukalade, Marmalade, doesn't enjoy any news that will bring her or her people down, so she doesn't like to associate with Dolly, the leader of Tramanad. Meanwhile, Quair is bunched up right up against Ukalade due to it being the kingdom of commercialism, meaning almost every toy, TV show, decoration, or entertainment media comes from their airwaves. And with Ukalade being such a fun place, they're bound to stick together. Krasa is the fine dining pyramid, but since pyramids are cities in the sky, they can't grow their own food. Yet. So, they stay near Sharwalk and Farvar for their food and veg. Umarag is the realtor pyramid, and doesn't have a specific land to be near. But, it does often use the site of Fraj and the Origin River as selling points to get people to go live there. Ram is located in the center of the Operetta Forest for spooky reasons. And Kraer is located on Lusionite land, so they're close with the Lusionites. The yellow line is meant to be what was originally known as the Hell Train, a train that travels across the land. It starts at Mirkr and then comes full circle to end at Mirkr, the lowest point of the land. It was originally called the Hell Train because Mirkr was originally supposed to be an allegory for hell. It's not anymore. So the train will instead be known as the Transcontinental Train. For, the way it crisscrosses the land. It doesn't travel towards Quell or the Land of the Roaring Winds due to their inhospitable nature. The train was originally made for Mirkr to send wartime weaponry across the land, but now it's mostly known for emigration and immigration between lands. The Land of the Roaring Winds exists in a perpetual state of autumn. That is, if you're even able to see the trees through the storm. The Land of the Umbras is the only Arctic land on Elavida. The demons are one of the only species that can live within the frigid cold without dying. This has actually changed how I view and write the demons, but we'll keep that for a later time. And that officially concludes the revision of the map of Elavida. I can't even say how much I love this new map. Compared to the old one, there's so much more to love and so much more to look for. The haunting of the Operetta Forest, the importance of the Land of the Umbras, the mystery of the Land of the Roaring Winds, and the societal significance of the Severed Cliffs. This has also given me so many new ideas for the 7 species of Elavida. But this isn't the end of the world of Elavida revisited. In fact, it's just the beginning. I have some new ideas to implement, including the magic system, the divided species lines, the effects of the different civilizations, the political, governmental, and societal differences in all of the lands. It's a lot. We'll see who gets upgraded, we'll see who gets nerfed, who changes drastically, and who doesn't change at all. I'm also looking for other artists, writers, and creators of all kinds to help me along my journey. Not hugely, mind you, I'm not expecting anyone to do any free work here. But rather, more people to bounce ideas off of and see where we can go from there. Also, if anyone at all has some good world building tips, I would love to hear them. Let me know what y'all think of this new series, and I hope y'all stick around to see what's coming down the pipe. What do I plan to do next? I plan on working on dividing the species lines first, because I believe that will in turn help me develop the different cultures of the species and how that affects their roles in different civilizations. I wonder who should be first. Demons? Angels? Phoenixes? Vampires? Illusionites? Human-esque hybrids? Or humans? Where will the world of Elavida take us next?